I miss one day to perform a little gig and suddenly it feels like I've missed like 5 game announcements. Oh wait, that's because I have. The original plan I had for this video was to talk about Pokemon Sword and Shield because of the new Direct that was announced a week in advance for like the first time this year. But on the side, the Pokemon Company decided to host the Pokemon Business Strategy announcement. There they announced Pokemon Bank, Pokemon Sleep, Pokemon Go++, Pokemon Masters, Pokemon Shirts, and a Detective Pikachu sequel. Quite the mouthful of content to say the least. But the conference, when I finally watched it seemed awfully dry and vague. So I'll just give my faint impressions before moving on to the main topic, shall I? So first of all, Pokemon Bank. It seems cool. Connecting every single game seems like a rad thing to do, but it's not really my thing. I don't plan to buy it and spend any money on it, but it's a nice concept. Pokemon Sleep definitely got off on the wrong foot. The trailer for it was really, really bad. Thankfully, that was the last thing I actually saw about it. I heard discussions and ideas for it first, and hearing those first, it actually doesn't sound too bad to me. Sleep improvement is a godly thing when you get that kind of treatment. And it makes Pokemon feel like more of a lifestyle choice, which, you know, it's slightly scary, but not too bad. It's only Pokemon. And it does have room for some cool ideas, potentially. It seems like just a general service for society. I probably won't get it, but I praise it for being risky and hopefully trying to spread some positivity with its audience. Pokemon Go++? It's just a little tabby thing that has functionality with Pokemon Go Plus and Pokemon Sleep, but it has a really bad name. Pokemon Masters seems interesting. It's clearly for the very casual mobile audience, and it's great how it integrates stuff from the anime, but I'm not really versed on many of the characters. My experience goes, there's Brock Misty, Dawn exists, and then the Sun and Moon crew. If it's free, I'll go ahead and get it, but I don't really feel like I have the hook needed for hardcore fans. Though it's for a casual audience, so maybe it's great for me. I don't really know. The 3v3 battles that I saw, I very much do enjoy. My favorite Pokemon games are the GameCube ones, Pokemon XD and Colosseum, and they were for the majority 2v2 battles, so I'm very happy to see 3v3 battles come back again. Pokemon Shirts is really weird, but I kinda love it. Give me something fancy but subtle, and hopefully it's not too crazy of a price. And finally, Detective Pikachu 2. Understandably, it's the sequel to the first game. But it's interesting, because apparently the story last time left on a cliffhanger, but will be different this time to what it was in the film. Which is all well and good, and I did enjoy the film, which I've now finally seen. But the game, Detective Pikachu, it's not a good game. It has major flaws. So would this be improved? I certainly hope so, because if not, it's a doomed product. But enough of the Pokemon Business Conference. The main event is the new Pokemon Direct, slated for June 5th, next Wednesday, 2 PM in the UK, so no complaints here. Sorry people in the West Coast, you have to wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. But we're also, talking about Pokemon again, we're in a really interesting position right now, I feel. Nintendo's supposed to have E3 coming up, and recently they released the Super Mario Maker 2 Direct, spewing so much content in 15 minutes that it seemed more like it was extra information that it wanted to get out of E3, like it was overstuffed with content. Not to mention, that Direct was one of the best ones they ever did, I would say. And now it seems to be a repeat for Pokemon Sword and Shield. We already know that Pokemon is appearing at E3, because the business conference did say, just wait a little bit more when stuff gets revealed at E3, or at least in a little bit of time, but I'm pretty sure they meant E3. So the fact that there is a Pokemon Direct seems to make suggestions that there's just so much more to talk about. Obviously, hopefully this Direct will be on the same level as Super Mario Maker 2, but maybe that's an unfair judgment. I guess we'll have to see. But also, for me personally, I'm not yet hooked onto Pokemon Sword and Shield, by a long shot. Let me express my current thoughts and first impressions before giving Pokemon a real chance, alright? So, this is supposed to be the next mainline Pokemon game, right? And up to this point, every single mainline game has been on handheld. We have some console Pokemon games, sure, but they're spin-offs and don't get a ton of attention. My personal favorites are, of course, the GameCube ones. I love them. They're 3D and it's great. At least it was great back in 2002 when 3D was new. But now we finally have full-on mainline Pokemon on the Switch. We're expecting full HD quality that completely blows our mind. But Sword and Shield isn't that. Nintendo Switch is a hybrid console. but Sword and Shield, it feels like it's on the handheld side of the spectrum between the two types of consoles. It feels like a handheld Pokemon just on a Switch. And that doesn't blow my mind, it just looks like the 3DS quality with a little less aliasing. Needless to say, I've been underwhelmed. Maybe I'm overly expectant, and that's fair enough. Maybe I also have a potential bias to it as well, because the game is set in the UK, which is great stuff. You know, I'm from the UK, if you couldn't tell by the accent. But you know what I really hate? I hate football. But obviously, it's the centerpiece of the UK, and I'm also not a giant fan of the whole royalty archaic aspect of the UK either, which is also going to be a central piece of it. Obviously, both will be at the forefront of Sword and Shield. We've already seen a giant foot stadium, and we'll likely see the Queen in some capacity too. But also, the starter Pokemon really didn't call to me very much. I was very exhausted by the Fire Bunny plus football aspects as well. But also, to me at first, it seemed like the grass and water Pokemon were a tad too similar. I've settled down now. Time has passed, and I've realised I'll probably be sticking with Soggle, but at the end of the day, my first impressions were still underwhelmed. It looked like a standard Pokemon game. It's not really new and HD, it's mostly just more of the same, which really grinded me down. But over time, I saw my opinion wasn't quite as common or necessarily fair. I also really enjoyed the new format of Pokemon Sun and Moon, but learned that others did not. Also, realizing that a new format had literally just been done in the last game, I can now kind of understand the more normal approach this generation. Maybe it's open world, but still, you know, more standard, I guess I'll allow it. But with this new Direct coming up, I wanted to list maybe some things that Pokemon Sword and Shield would adventure into, or potentially what could even be needed to bring me back to the game. But honestly, my distaste has dispersed a little, because I made a realization. When I first looked at the new gameplay, I felt it was lazy. It was more Pokemon just on a console, with the same handheld design. A $1 billion company using such a small fraction of their money on the game. I mean, just think of all the upgrades they could do if they just tried. But actually, there is way more to the Pokemon company than just the mainline games now. 2016 had Pokemon Go, last year we had Pokemon Quest and Pokemon Let's Go, and this year they've just announced the Go extension, Detective Pikachu, Bank, a new mobile game, and all sorts of stuff. And while I'm still disappointed by how little is improved, the Pokemon company is certainly not lazy. They're very busy working on every project, but maybe there's just a kind of fair spread of quality across them all. So I'm a little lighter on Pokemon Sword and Shield, and I'll likely be buying the game because I just want a new Pokemon experience. But here's a list of potential things that the new Pokemon Direct could introduce us to really reel me in as a less attached fan. So I'm diving in with some speculative ideas of things to see. Plus, if I'm right, I'm gonna feel like some kind of psychic, which is great. So first things first, Pokemon loves their side things to do. We've seen feeding Pokemon, grooming Pokemon, performing with Pokemon, digging in mines, and cooking, or I guess just kind of stirring. How's about a sports-related side task, like a mini-game of sport? We've seen a little bit of this with X and Y in Super Training and the giant balloon battles literally in a football stadium, which is used to boost up your Pokemon's base stats. Maybe it could make a reappearance or be improved in some way. Maybe this is already a thing in the stadium scene that shows up in the first trailer. Maybe it's some other sports like tennis or croquet. Maybe it's a simple game of just headering a ball with the Pokemon that builds some kind of trust thing. Or maybe you can play with them with a toy like the ball idea a la Nintendogs. Another idea for a side thing is maybe some kind of music-based things. I'm trying to keep this within the theme of the UK, and the two things that really stick out to me is the bagpipes as being a main connection to Scotland, or maybe famous British musicians. What? Famous British musicians like the Beatles. They started here, so maybe, you know, they're gonna get their own thing. Maybe there's a bingo game, because apparently that's really big in Britain. Another thing is maybe there could be some kind of archery, dartsy kind of minigame. It feels like a little Olympicsy, but I was also thinking maybe Robin Hood. Of course, I imagine like all the side things to do are actually connected to the themes and areas and regions of the Pokemon games, but honestly, it's not, and I'm kind of weak for ideas. So instead, we're going to change things up a little bit, and instead, we're just going to list some very big, famous British things. We've already seen major things like football motifs, factory mechanics, and field art designs, but me being a fairly, versed guy on Britain, I think I'd list a few other British things that could maybe be translated into the Pokemon world. So other things I very much expect to see are, of course, up front and center, the royal family. The queen is definitely going to be some kind of Pokemon trainer. There's going to be butlers everywhere in at least 3 different regions, and I'm very much expecting a new Pokemon to be a corgi of some kind. Plus, I can even see actually the queen's guards with the big black cushy wigs being a trainer type. Big Ben is obviously a giant likely location that's going to be referenced in some form. It could also open up maybe for some kind of new clock Pokemon evolution path, like if they were to be named, it'd be like Ticker, Tockler, and Chronicore or something. There's also the London Eye, obviously just being a big old location. Maybe it could be a fun view of the overworld, like a social location that you can optionally go along. There is the London Underground. We British people love the trains over or underground. It seems like it could be an actual transport system, or maybe it could even be the return of the battle subway. I really did enjoy the music for those battles, so I guess I can only hope. Maybe this could even be the link to online connectivity. Maybe there are online random battles you can do, and maybe it could just be whoever gets off at Waterloo. Don't forget to hit that bell to see more of my videos. If you like my stuff, this was your brief mid-video reminder. Apparently another thing that is a very British thing is roast dinners. Many people I know decide to have roast dinners every Sunday. It's not really my thing, but it could very well be a Pokemon idea. Though it's a plate of meat, so maybe not. Maybe there's just a gravy and potato Pokemon. It's something British, I'm not sure if it's translatable. A much more obvious one is fish and chips. It is very British and it's actually my favorite thing, though maybe it could just be a shop design in the background. Maybe there's a chip Pokemon, but fish is very much less so. Maybe there's a Magikarp trainer that's some kind of chef you see at some point. That's pretty much as far as I can see it going, unfortunately. So next up, pubs. Do you have any idea how many pubs there are in the UK? You don't want to know. There's a map that shows where they all are. It's literally just the entire tier of the UK. Not to mention, pubs are like 80% of British culture. But obviously, it's not kid-friendly, so I'm not entirely sure how this could translate, even though it's such an obviously British thing. Maybe there could be some kind of drinks Pokemon, or a water-based minigame, like you have to balance a flow of water, or direct it into a funnel to totally not be a joke about drinking all your alcohol. Or maybe you can just find a pub goer as a trainer that you can encounter. Rain is apparently a very big British weather trope. Maybe there could be more weather Pokemon, kind of like cast form. I'd kind of like that, to be honest. Tea is obviously very British and is clearly going to be the return of that stirring minigame everyone loved. But otherwise, maybe it could be a Pokemon design or mentioned by characters all the time. Maybe there could be a fairy teabag Pokemon or a modest teacup Pokemon and then an angry kettle Pokemon. Their names being Teakle, Tea-Crump, and Kettleanger. I'm not a Pokemon name man, if you couldn't tell already. Another big British thing is Oxford and Cambridge universities. These are the big name universities for the very smart people, the very pompous people, and it could very well be some sort of fancy student location you can visit. Going for a more historical approach, Shakespeare is a very much prominent British figure. Maybe there could be some writer Pokemon or writer characters, like a Hamlet guy holding up a skull. Or maybe there could be a writer that has a Cubone in their team party, that kind of reference. I mentioned this earlier, but maybe the Beatles could have some kind of reference. If they're not getting their own musical sign mission game thing, maybe they could have a chance of being a banded Beatle Pokemon type, like Doug Trio, but Beatles, and they all have bowl haircuts. Or maybe just a musical trainer that looks like one of them. There's also the Wimbledon that Britain is known for. It's just a good old tennis stadium thing. It might be overshadowed by football, but you never know. Maybe there's tennis Pokemon or badminton or racket Pokemon. I'm doubtful, but it's an option. An odd one, since they are going with the mechanical factory approach, is maybe pollution. Well, it's a more excuse for poison Pokemon. Maybe there's a heated coal type Pokemon if we're going for that slightly archaic feel. One that I could see that I'm not entirely sure how they could do is maybe some kind of coins Pokemon, like different sized pound coins. I mean, I'm sure everyone gets coins, but I don't think we've seen coin Pokemon yet. Just big metallic circular Pokemon. I don't know. Stonehenge could be a lovely ghostly rock location. I mentioned this one as well earlier, but it could be other things. Robin Hood. Maybe there could be another archer Pokemon like the fully evolved form of Rowlet. Maybe it's a chav in a hoodie, since it's supposed to be a hood man that robs people, like a hoodlum with a bow and arrow. Going into the more Scottish things, because I've kind of been accidentally omitting them, some Scottish famous things are kilts. Maybe this could be a new design that your trainers can customly wear. Haggis. Maybe a sludgy Pokemon or food. And apparently Iron Brew, the brand, is a very Scottish thing. quests unusable in Pokemon, I'm pretty sure. Honestly, for Scotland, I can't really think of a lot of options. Maybe the Royal Mile at the Edinburgh-esque city could appear. Maybe they could show off some kind of festival with Fringe. I don't really know about that one. Just thinking about Pokemon expansions as a whole instead of the British things, there could potentially be new battles introduced. We do see all sorts of things like 3v3s on a rotary system or sky battles. For this one, the only one I can really think of is train battles coming back, or like having a twist to them. Maybe it could act like an endless tournament round, or it would be a time-based speed battle of who is the most damaged by the end of it. We could very likely see new evolutions, since the latest two ones have given us Mega Evolutions and Z moves. I kind of want to see like combo moves, like two Pokemon banding together. Whether it's you have two Pokemon out at a time that help each other with like a combined Z move, or maybe it's an assistance from one of the Pokemon in the party that gives you an extra combo-y move. Otherwise, I'm out of ideas. There could be a new type of motion. We've seen rollerblades and bikes and all sorts of things like that, and getting on Goat. Maybe you could summon a carriage or like have horse Pokemon push you along. It's very old school British, but it's all I can think of. Amiibo support is something I'm also unsure about, because Super Mario Maker 2 has completely axed it as far as I'm aware, so maybe Nintendo's leaning away from it? To me, it sounds like prime time for some extensive actual Pokemon Amiibo. You know, we've already got the basics like Charizard and the Pokemon Trainer from Smash, but I want more, you know? Even if it's just the starters, I'll take that. Maybe what they could do with Amiibo support is, say you have an Amiibo with a certain type, and then you can use it on the Pokemon in your game with the exact same type, and it gives your Pokemon a certain amount of EXP. Maybe if you had a Charmander and you gave it a Charizard Amiibo, it would get the biggest boost for being in the same evolutionary path as well as the same Pokemon type. If room designing returns, for whatever reason, Amiibo could make statues that you could set up of the Pokemon in the Amiibo. Or it maybe just unlocks costumes for the player, like a bag or a hat or an icon design they wear on their shirt. Honestly, that's pretty much the most that I can come up with. Being from Britain, I thought I'd regurgitate some British things that could be inspired in the game. Plus, I'm making a habit of going up to Scotland every August with the Biscuit Barrel, so I somewhat know some Scottish things too, I guess. But as a Pokemon semi-fan, I'm unsure what new directions the game can go, especially since it's mostly the same format as always. They've always added a billion side project things and tiny little tweaks, and it feels like, considering it's just the same formula, I'm curious to see what other tweaks they can possibly add. Maybe there'll be something big to reel me in, or a bunch of little things that just kind of pique my interest. Or maybe it will just continue being just another Pokemon game. Either way, I'll probably buy it, so I guess it doesn't really matter. What do you expect to be revealed during the upcoming Pokemon Direct? Is there something big to be revealed, or a million little things? Is it just a normal presentation with another normal trailer? And what British-inspired things can you also see brewing, if you can think of anything? Got any ideas for Wales and Ireland? Is Ireland even in this game? I'm not really sure. List all of your thoughts down below. This is a speculation video after all. But for now, that is all I have to say. I'm actually currently away in Brighton at the moment for the Brighton Fringe Festival all weekend. I'm performing with the Biscuit Barrel, so if you're in the area, do give us a look. Details will be linked in the description. A Monday upload is also just a maybe right now, because I'm away, obviously, but I'll try my best. Hit that bell for more of me, but for now, my name's been Daz. You didn't really care, and I'll see you in a bit.